Dr. Crowder, but Crowder was the actual director because he took over just that time that BJ passed on. So Lyle Sherman, how did I even get to Lyle Sherman? What was I talking about? That was a while ago. Doesn't matter. Let's listen to, has anyone ever heard him speak? Would you like to?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to play a short clip. I want you just listen to it, and then we'll talk about it. Thank you.
And then blood pressure do return. If that patient can relax a little while and it clears out, it is much better for him than another adjustment. Because innate has to hold the vertebra in place if it is ever going to stay there. And so we tell him that we expect him to hold on to what we have given him. That if he does something to bring that pressure back, each time that he has to be adjusted after that may make it a little more difficult for it to stay in place.
Okay. Let me just preface that, and I'm going to play it again. I want you to listen to it again. When a patient arrives to the BJ Palmer Research Clinic, they will run through the entire process. The medical doctor saw them, checked them. Chiropractor saw them and checked them. In the chiropractic department, they had spinal grafts taken, a full set, anywhere between 11 and 21 plates were taken. Neurocalografts were taken of the cervical and the full spine. Okay. When pattern was established, pattern indicating that an adjustment was needed, the person was did have a vertebral subluxation, the adjustment was made. Immediately post-checked with a neurocalograph and rested. Post-checked again with a neurocalograph to make sure that the neurology had changed, that the correction was made. That same moment, they were sent back to the spinography department and they had the same 11 to 21 plates taken. They stayed for 2 weeks, got checked throughout that time. At the end of 2 weeks, they had a whole nother set taken. So, Dr. Sherman, this, by the way, was his exit speech to the Palmer School of Chiropractic in 1951 when he was leaving. What you missed from the beginning of this was when a patient arrives and we work him up and we give him that adjustment and he's cleared out and he comes in and gets checked again and it shows nerve pressure, listen again to what Dr. Sherman says. I had to listen to this, I don't know, 25, 50 times, and it never made sense to me.
And that blood pressure do return. If that patient can relax a little while and it clears out, it is much better for him than another adjustment. Because innate has to hold the vertebra in place if it is ever going to stay there. And so we tell him that we expect him to hold on to what we have given him. That if he does something to bring that pressure back, each time that he has to be adjusted after that may make it a little more difficult for it to stay in place.
I don't know about you, but that flawed me. Because I was always taught, if I do my checks, my objective checks, and it says subluxation, adjust. Don't let them live another moment with subluxation, right? That's boom, adjust, adjust. And that's prevailing, right, in most techniques. Adjust, adjust, adjust. You never hear check. Except in the upper cervical work, and then even some of those is just lip service, okay? So what did Dr. Sherman say here? If they come in with pressure, did he say adjust? He said, go rest them. Put them in the rest chair, 20 minutes, a half an hour. Maybe even send them home and have them come back tomorrow. Why? What did he add to that? Innate holds the adjustment. And if I put a thrust in there, regardless of whether it needs it or not, right? He has a vertebral subluxation. If I put another thrust in there, what's the outcome?
It's harder to hold.
Holy crap! Again, it made no sense to me. So where did I go? I have a doubt in my philosophy. Where do I go? I went to Stevenson's, and I was reading. I'm like, dude, this is Lyle Sherman. Was he just like, I don't know, did he drop acid or something when he told that story? What was going on? Was he wanted to jack up BJ because he was leaving? What is going on here? and an epiphany hit as I was going through the 33 principles. What is the character of innate forces? Constructive, right, in nature. What is the character of universal forces? In fact, what does Stevenson say in his verbiage that he took from, what is it? Unswerving, without solicitude, meaning it don't give a crap for the matter in which it works, right? Does the lightning bolt care for the tree as it splits it in half? No. So here's where the epiphany came from. What's the chiropractic adjusting thrust? How can my adjustment ever be destructive? Isn't it the best thing in the world? How could it ever be destructive? And I started thinking, I'm like, oh man, okay. Here's where humility and ego hits the pavement. Who's a higher tribe? Quarter student. Higher. Don't be scared. Vitamin D, right in this moment. How much do I need? Right in this moment. 2, come on. Oh, you must know for you. This is your body. Come on. You don't know. If you don't know how much vitamin D you need in this moment, if you don't know what liver cell number 5,692 needs in this moment, how could you as the chiropractor possibly know how much force to put into that adjusting thrust? Now, for me to accomplish my goal, for me to actually entice an ape to make an adjustment, doesn't it have to be just enough? Just enough? So if I make it, I'm at least at just enough. Right? If it's not enough, it's not enough, right? But if I did correct the, quote-unquote, the vertebral subluxation, it was just enough, right? Do I know what each person needs? So the likelihood is, if it was just enough, it was probably a little more than just enough, right? Or maybe a lot more than just enough. We've all been on the receiving end, and we've all been on the giving end. Yes? Let's be honest. Yes? Yes. Now, there's three outcomes of that extra stuff. So there's enough for us to entice an aid to make the adjustment. But then there's 3 outcomes for the extra stuff. One is what? Which would be good? Innate adapt set force for use. Yes? Next one? It's neutral. Nothing. No, okay, we'll call it a wash. Third one? Not so good. Destructive in nature. So every time I give an adjusted thrust, whether they needed it or not, whether they had vertebral subluxation or not, there is a possibility that I am introducing a destructive force. Enough accumulative destructive survival value, and now you have the self-fulfilling prophecy is, Doc, I need to see you every day, or I need to see you every week, or I need to see you all the time for the rest of my life, or I need to see you. Why is this patient not whole? They did the best. It was great. They had Parkinson's, and now they don't, but now it's coming back. You're going to have to adjust them all. All of these things begin to feed back. So do we not adjust at all and just hope for the best? This is what I want for you guys. Every single one of you. And I don't care what technique you do. I don't even care what system you do. As long as it's chiropractic, I'm okay. I want you to listen to this. It's a minute long. Does that sound good? Not so much? My son Zach, I have 4 kids. My eldest, Zachariah, he's 14 now. He's an awesome kid. I'm not going to post a picture. I don't do it. That's my why. I don't do that stuff. My son Zach wanted to play an instrument, and he picked the viola. I can tell you right now, I'm completely tone deaf. I know nothing about music. I I tried when I was a kid. You know, I watched those programs, American Idol and stuff, and there, you know, I listened and I said, ah, it sounded great. And Jackson saying, oh, dude, that's pitchy. Or like, whoa, that was horrible. And they're like, oh, it's the best ever. I have no musicality at all. My wife, her mother plays the harp, her brother was a concert cellist, she plays the piano. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I want to kind of like, you know, engage my son a little bit. So he's practicing in the living room one day, and he's playing his stuff, and he's got the sheet music, and I don't even know what that is. So I said, Zach, what is this stuff? And I mean, but I knew they were notes, but I wanted to give him a chance to engage with me on this level. He said, Dad, these little round circles with the stems, those are the notes. That tells me what string to pluck or to pull a bow on. This connector tells me what the flow is and the rhythm. And these are spaces here in between. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. And let me hear what that sounds like. And he plays it. It's good, not great, but he plays it. And I'm just listening. And I was also a little bit disengaged. You know, I don't know, had my iPad or my phone, Facebooking or something like that. And he stopped, and Zach, why'd you stop? And he looked me in the eyes and he said, Dad, you know, if it wasn't for the space in between the notes, all it would be noise. And I'm like, my son, 14 years old, just give me a lesson of life that flawed me, like speechless, and you can tell I don't have a problem with speaking. I'm speechless. Does anybody want to care to guess what that instrument is? It's exactly the same instrument. We as chiropractors, we're the musician. The notes that we strike, that's the adjusting thrust. It's not the adjusting thrust that does anything. It's not the pluck of the string on the guitar or the viola that makes, or the hammer on the string that makes the music. It's that vibration that occurs after the hammer or the pluck is left. That's us. The music happens in between the notes. The music within the human body of a restored communication of innate intelligence to all cells is where the magic happens and the music happens within the body. But we are so wrapped up, invested in wanting to help them, and the tools that we think we have is the adjustment, when it's the pause, the checking, the analysis to know that they're clear. And just leave them alone. Listen to the music with them. Dance with them. Which do you want to play? Which do you want your patients to manifest? You have this amazing, incredible power to do this. But we have to take pause. Again, I don't care if you're taking people. Do full spine. But even when I talk to my full spine docs, I tell them, how about today you just go in one room and check them, and if you find vertebral subluxation, why don't you just leave them relaxed, go to your next room and check them, let them relax and go back and see if you find the same stuff. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you do, go ahead, do your thing. But if you don't, now you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to put an adjusted force in it. I'm not saying never adjust, but I'm saying let's listen to the music. Let's use the tools that we have to know that we know when they need to be adjusted and when they don't. Let's make beautiful music with everyone in our community and everyone around us. Not like, oh man, I have a headache. Crap. Oh man, crap. Just let them Does everyone know the story of the seizures? Lyle Sherman and BJ Palmer? We've already established Lyle Sherman was a pretty competent, kick-ass chiropractor, assistant director of the BJ Palmer Research Clinic. In came a patient who had seizures, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25 seizures a day. Chiropractic at home wasn't helping, medicine wasn't helping, medical industry wasn't helping at all. They came to the BJ Palmer Research Clinic, worked up like I just told you, found vertebral subluxation. And Lyle Sherman was the one that actually gave the adjustment, cleared them out. Ran the scan the next day and the patient was clear. Did you know what happened to the seizures? It went up. It almost doubled. In the halls, and by the way, does anybody know how tall BJ Palmer was? This short little dude, he was like, boom, right? Lyle wasn't towering, but anybody was almost bigger than BJ. And he always walked determined, and he walked, and Lyle stopped him. In fact, the Palmer, I have this patient, and he said, well, what's going on? Well, they had 25 seizures, got them adjusted, and they have 50 seizures today. And BJ asked, what do you think he asked? What do you think he asked Dr. Sherman? What did the graph say? It's clear. Okay, leave him alone. And walked off. Checked them the next day. Remember I told you they were there for 2 weeks. Most patients. Checked them the next day, clear. How many seizures? Almost like 90 in this one day. He tracks BJ down again. Dr. Palmer, you know I told you that story about John Doe, yeah. He had 90. Oh, what the graph said is clear. And he walked off. Didn't even say anything. Next day, runs the graph, clear. Any guess on how many seizures? Well over 100 now. In one day. Nervously, again in the hallway, Dr. Sherman says to Dr. Palmer, are you, his patient, John Doe, what the graph say? Cut him off with the graph. Clear. He said, Dr. Sherman, if you ask me one more time, you're fired. And walked off. Next 2 days, clear, clear, clear. Seizures started to drop, drop, drop. Dropped at the end of the 2 weeks, not one seizure. What we do is not the cure-all. What we do is reconnect. But if Dr. Sherman wasn't impressed upon by Dr. Palmer to allow the music to happen, the person probably wouldn't be with us. Well, probably not with us anymore at this age, but wouldn't have lasted, wouldn't have lived. You will be challenged in your office. You will be challenged as a new parent. You will be challenged every day. I had it with my first child. That viola thing. We lived in Costa Rica. My wife and I, we practiced there for 7 years. After the 3rd year there, we had Zach. And we were planning on the whole, natural, again, it's just, I'm going to step outside of chiropractic. It has nothing to do with chiropractic. I'm just telling you my personal view of life is we were going to have a natural birth. We had this, we lived on a finca, like a little farm. We had tons of fruit trees. We had a grapefruit tree, an orange tree, a guava tree, hass, tree. We had 2 plantanos. We had 4 baby banana trees, and then we had a mango tree. We had agua de manzana. You have that? Oh, those are good. You know those Asian pears, but they're like that, but not. Sorry. That's the best I can describe it. But they're red instead of the yellow Asian pears that you take, and it's like literally pours out water when you take a bite out of it. It's so good. And then we have like 4 different kinds of lemons. You know how here we're used to like limes and lemons? Everywhere else in the world there's like 12 different kinds of limones. It was the best place to live. We had, everything's made in Costa Rica because of the bugs and the weather in like concrete and tile. So our bathroom, the master bedroom, was all this white tile. And there was no separation from like the shower to the floor, because what do you need one for, right? Here's the coolest thing. A 6 by 6 foot opening in the roof was always open with a grate, like not a small grate, but a big grate so big animals can't get in. So it would rain, I would take showers in the rain. So we had this big, beautiful tub. We were going to have the baby in the tub. Everything was going to be cool, right? You've all heard of that saying, man plans and God laughs? Okay. He decided to laugh on this one. 6 weeks early, she had complete premature rupture of the sac, lost all amniotic fluid, distress. So he said, you got to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. This is not even part of the story. I'm only setting you up because of our mentality. We're in a third world country. You know, you have the questions of vaccination. Again, not a chiropractic conversation. This is a personal conversation you need to have to yourself. But there are things that factor in, okay? So he was a preemie, first of all. And in that first year of life, I want to say around month 7 or 8, he got whooping cough. Has anyone ever seen a child or baby with whooping cough? Even if it's not yours, it rips your heart to pieces to see this child gasping, literally gasping for air. Their nail beds blue, their lips blue, their eyes bulging because they can't breathe. My wife's a chiropractor also. So I checked Zach, and actually at the beginning he was carrying nerve pressure, and I gave him an adjustment and we cleared him out. But he couldn't breathe. And it's like, and you're watching this as a parent, and you're saying, at what point? Now, you know, I have the best mentors in the world. You've heard of some of them already. I spoke about the hardest core philosophic upbringing, chiropractic, and we were doing and seeing a lot of people there. Never ever doubted it with any patient I ever had. But here I'm watching my own son. Wait, do you think I had things in the back of my head that rush him to the emergency room when there's an emergency case? So I checked him. I'm checking him, and I'd run outside to cry so my wife wouldn't see me crying. Because he's clear. And he can't breathe. And I'll tell you, every time I checked him once an hour. Every time I checked him, and he still wasn't breathing, do you know what I prayed for? I prayed, please show me something so I can hit him again. Right? So I can adjust him again. So I can put that in there, because that's what I do, because that's what he needs. But I didn't, because it was clear. The needle didn't budge. It was right on there. 36 hours. Like literally, almost to the minute. 36 hours. Checking him once an hour, never needed an adjustment. He started breathing. And that afternoon, he was like literally running around. Our principles are our foundation. They are our rock. We're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged. We're all going to be challenged, whether in our practice or not. The question is, whenever you do something in chiropractic, you want to ask yourself this question, and those who are my students know the question: mediocre or master? If I get a call, hey doc, I'm really tired, do I need to do those drills tonight? My question is, mediocre or master? What do you want? If you have family that you're going to send that live in Detroit, who do you want to take care of them? The person that's partying and didn't take their stuff seriously, or the person that practiced 3 hours a day on a scooter board, that checked 10,000 scans before he even looked and trying to interpret one? That's what you should have. That should be your motto. If I can impress on you one thing, it's just that. Put it on your mirror, mediocre or master. So no matter how tired, how sick, how much pressure you have, take the time to do your stuff. Again, it doesn't matter your technique. But whatever it is, if it's downstage, get that freaking half a tennis ball and thrust into the tennis ball. Run in nervous scope. If it's toggle recoil, do your thrusts in the air. Because the moment that you make your analysis and put your hands on someone, that person is giving you their life, entrusted you with their life. Because if we're going to tell stories about this marvelous thing called chiropractic and the power that a chiropractic adjustment can do with all of these named diseases, is the reverse not also the same? That if I manipulate you and cause vertebral subluxation, can I not cause all of those things too? So let's not be practicing on each other. Let's not be hitting each other in bars and at parks and at this. Let's not be saying, hey, I need to do this. Let's take ownership of what we do. Ask ourselves, mediocre or master? Everybody's seen like chiropractic, capital T-I-C, like chiropractor. Well, I was thinking about this, and I'm not claiming any rights to it or anything like that. But when I read chiropractors, you know what I see? Taking our responsibility seriously. It is so serious. My mentor, and I'm going to close with this, and then we can open to discussion. My mentor said this. Everybody heard of "to err is human"? That quote, "to err is human." He said, "To err is human, but as a chiropractor, you don't have that luxury." Mediocre or master? We are blessed to be the musicians. We need to listen to the music. Thank you. I am here if you have any questions, philosophical, if you have technique. Just tell me who you are.
My name is Ulysses. My question is,
That's a big name.
thank you very much. I'm a second quarter student.
Awesome.
And as you go through the program, you hear about other people in upper quarters, starting to learn, starting to practice. When you say, let's not adjust on each other, that, how do you recommend that one learns technique?
In general?
Or more specifically, a chiropractic technique if we can't practice on each other?
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I can't speak to every technique, so I can only give you my journey. Right away, in my first week of school, I knew I wanted to do upper cervical. It was an epiphany. I'm not going to tell you that story. That'll be for another time. I come if you like. I mimicked the adjusted thrust on a table that I had in the fraternity house that I lived in. So there was a table there, and I just knew what it looked like, so I would put my hand on, and I would mimic into the table. And I practiced. And then back in those days, there were different kinds of speeders and stuff like that. And I made it my goal to practice between half an hour and an hour 3 times a day while I was a student. That's for the adjusted thrust, right, to build that up. And then I found the mentors that I trusted that actually know how to apply that force to then check me and check my slipping to correct anything that I had created habitually. I can tell you it's much easier to start fresh than it is to correct a bad habit. Priority, I would say, over the adjusted thrust is actually the analysis. So whatever, if you're going in the upper cervical stream, I would say that you need to master the proper protocol of taking a proper scan, heat reading, and doing a proper light check, right? Each one has its hierarchy of how closely related it is to the vertebral subluxation expression, and so that you could factor those things in. But again, there I recommend finding a mentor to guide you in that. So in our track, in the art of the specific, we have speeders that this gentleman actually makes for us. This is James Cho.
Yeah, Jimmy.
He makes full spine chiropractic equipment, makes upper cervical chiropractic equipment. All of our portable tables, knee chest tables are made by Jim Cho for us, and all of our speeders. We had designed this version of the speeder to allow variations in force, so that we can tune our body into applying the different forces. This is, for our students, mandatory tool. So this would be one, if you're looking to do knee posture work, or solid headpiece work, even side posture solid headpiece work, which we teach, this would be a mandatory tool. And I wish I had this, because practicing a thrust on a hard table as opposed to this definitely damaged me a little bit. So, does that help?
Yes.
Done.
I've got a more of a technique specific question, is that okay?
No.
On the side posture, solid headpiece, in a lot of the old pictures, you see it's similar, the headpiece is similar to a knee chest posture,
Yeah.
where you've got some of the cervicals below axis supported by the table, by the headpiece.
So a lot of those pictures that you're talking about, there's only actually like 2 out there.
Right.
And one was like film of BJ just coming off of the thrust, and one setting up. That's important, the angle.
Well, that's
You didn't finish your question.
No,
Yeah,
so my question is, so if you're gonna set somebody up in a solid headpiece side posture, is the toggle headpiece, the drop headpiece, like on a toggle table, do their lower cervicals need to be back by the headpiece, or can they just be hanging off free off the table if you're adjusting out of axis?
Yes and no. So it really depends on a number of factors. So, there is no cookie cutter. I will get to your answer, so let me just fill this in. There's no cookie cutter. There's no 15 degrees of the headpiece for the knee chest table. There's no specific, this needs to be covered. It really all is dependent on the architecture of the patient presenting itself, and the misalignment component of the vertebral subluxation, and the compensation that's going on in the spine. Does that make sense? There's so many factors that go into it. So this is one of the biggest difficulties in technique. And I think this is probably one of the biggest difficulties and frustrations that the masters had in translating and trying to transmit what they had. Because you know how, like, let's say if we go back in time and we were looking at Palmer specific.